Hello, Dawn Moore at Allegiance Title Company. I want to use today's video simply to reiterate a concept that I have addressed before in a previous video and in my classes. I want you to think of the third-party financing addendum for credit approval as a contingency under the contract and not as a statement of financing. What the third-party financing addendum for credit approval says is that this contract is contingent on the buyer being able to afford the loan and also that those loan terms are available to the buyer. The buyer, on the other hand, can get better terms or worse terms from the lender at their option, but the contract's contingent on the buyer being able to get at least the terms presented in the third-party financing addendum. In this time of rising interest rates, you who represent sellers need to pay particular attention to the interest rate in the third-party financing addendum. Even though the buyer's pre-approval letter may have cited one interest rate, if the interest rates have gone up since the date of that pre-approval letter, then you need to make sure the third-party financing addendum reflects the higher interest rates. Let me give you an example of what was presented to me this week. A listing agent had been called by the lender for the buyer, saying that the buyer had been approved. But a week later, and on the last day of the third-party financing addendum, she got a letter from the buyer terminating the contract for failure to get credit approval under the third-party financing addendum. She asked me, how could that be? And I told her I didn't know. We needed to investigate it a little bit further. The buyer's agent called me and said they were approved for a 3.5% interest, but they were not approved for the interest rate specified in the third-party financing addendum, which was 3.25. The seller was a little bit taken aback that the buyer would get out of the contract simply for a quarter of a point interest. But I had to tell the seller, unfortunately, it may not make that much financial difference to that buyer, but the buyer had the right to get out of the contract because they had made it contingent on a 3.25% interest rate, and that lender did not have that available to that buyer at this time. So be careful on your third-party financing addendum. Make sure it has reasonable terms of loans in there before you accept it, as you're looking out for the seller's interest as well. Of course, from a buyer's perspective, you want that contingency as tight as possible, so the buyer could have an out if they chose to. I hope this information is helpful to you as you negotiate your contracts, as long as you understand that the addendum is a contingency and not a statement of financing. Good luck in your negotiations. Thank you for the support you give Allegiance Title Company. Keep the questions coming. Keep the business flowing. Thank you.